Ken sends in this list of guys. I'll give a Spencer scale of agreement on breakout potential for every name that comes across the old mailbag here. Ken says these players are off the radar, not under, but, well, I don't know that they're all off the radar. Iffy should not be off of anybody's radar, as I talked about earlier. Aaron Flowers, Blake Purchase, Sione Laulea, and Nasir Wyatt. Boy, Nasir Wyatt's an interesting one. One of my favorite tapes of any Oregon recruit in the last 2 cycles, really. I'm a huge Nasir Wyatt fan. So I talked about Iffy earlier. I'm gonna put a 9 on Iffy because I'm pretty bullish, and I think a lot of other people are going to become bullish if they aren't already. And for my everydayers, you know how hard it is to get an SSA agreement that's up there in the 8-9 range. So 9 on that. Aaron Flowers, like him, I'm down at a 4. Like I can definitely see it. I think the athleticism that's presented in the tandem of Kingston Lopa and Dylan Thieneman just goes beyond what Oregon has had at safety so far since Dan Lanning and company got on campus a few years ago. So I'll put Flowers at a 4. Blake Purchase, let me come back to Blake Purchase because that's complicated. Sione Laulea. So one of those guys that, again, that's an under-the-radar pick. Sione Laulea, former top JUCO prospect, redshirted last year, so could still play next year. He's listed as a redshirt junior on the roster. So I think that his physical traits are really interesting. He's such a fluid athlete. He's 6'3". He's got great size. He was on the 2 deep or maybe 3 deep last year. One of those guys that you saw in some garbage time situations. Could I see him? I could. I'm a Jalil Florence fan. I always have been since he's been on campus for the last several years, and I think that Jalil and Iffy are probably your 2 starting outside corners. You can't forget about Thron Johnson as well, the Northwestern transfer that's got a little bit more experience. He could push a guy like Sione down on the depth chart, so I'll go with a 3 on Laulea. Nasir Wyatt, though, there's an opportunity for a couple of small roles that only pop up every now and then, but can be important in certain situations. Oregon went to pass rush specialist packages last year where it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12. They're going to the air. They'll take the big guys off the field and just put on a bunch of speed rushers. They did this really throughout the year. They did it against Oregon State. I think they even did it against Ohio State a couple of times. Nasir Wyatt's speed and twitchiness off the edge is very unique. Now, he's not very tall. I think he's projecting, to play kind of that outside linebacker spot that Mateo Uyungule does. He's only like 6 foot, 6'1". Mateo is 6'5", so he doesn't have, I was talking about Tank Jones earlier this week, the 2026 5-star commit. He doesn't have that sort of size, but his speed is crazy good. And he reminds me of like a faster Kenny Rowe coming off the edge. So I'm going to put a 4 on that one too, because I think there's a chance for a role for Nasir Wyatt. I don't know that it would fall into the category of breakout necessarily to where you look up and, he's either, a regular key contributor, a starter, or an all-conference caliber player. Blake Purchase, though, it's kind of like a reemergence. I think he was battling an injury last year. He wound up redshirting and, of course, didn't transfer out, is still there. Played a bunch as a true freshman. So I'm putting Purchase at a 6. I think he'll be featured in the defensive line rotations, which are so incredibly deep. I'm stoked to watch that unit. So, yeah, Iffy a 9, Flowers a 4, Sione a 3. Wyatt, I'll go with a 4. 4 on Wyatt. But Blake Purchase, I'll give Purchase a 6. Other breakout candidates, Blake Purchase, Iffy Obadego. This is from KF Ball 247. Actually, already got through the players that he mentioned there. Purchase, Iffy, Lopa, and Flowers. I think of all of them, Kingston Lopa is so interesting, such an interesting physical prospect. So I think that my top, like, Iffy is a really exciting cornerback prospect. Lopa athletically looks so fast when you watch him on film. So yeah, I'd be super down for all of that. This question came in: who's the most underrated player on this roster that fans need to know about before week 1? Well, underrated depends on how often you listen to or watch this particular program, because you might have a different range of what's under the radar, what's underrated, not being talked about, and all that sort of stuff that's different compared to someone who, tunes into this show or others once a month, or who's just now starting to get back into paying attention to Oregon football and what's going to happen in fall camp and all that sort of stuff. By the way, speaking of fall camp, I haven't heard anything about another season of that team out west, the docuseries they did going into last year. I hope they do it. I don't know if they are planning to. Last year, Ty Burrell narrated it. I really like that, but we'll see if that winds up coming back. Most underrated player, can I go with Poncho? Because as I'll talk about later, sometimes the big fellas can get overlooked. I really think Poncho can become one of the best centers in college football this year. I do. I mean, he's already really good. And, Jackson Powers Johnson, I'm just laughing. Those of you that are following the trivia segment I've been doing here know why I'm chuckling and mildly embarrassed about his name at the moment. But again, that's for later. So I think Poncho is the answer, because if the offensive line is going to come out and be better than it was last year, that was where the weaknesses started last season, is they thought Poncho should slide to guard after Matthew Bedford got hurt, and they put Charlie Pickard at center. And then there were, some communication issues, like, a fumble against Boise State was because the ball got snapped to Dylan Gabriel. He wasn't ready for it, took off running and lost the ball. And then Boise scored a touchdown and took the lead. And, PFF and I think our eye test as well would tell us, yeah, Charlie Pickard, not a power 4 caliber starting center. If the offensive line comes out and is good for the first couple of weeks, significantly better, I hope, than what it was through the first couple of weeks of last season, like, if they start out at the standard of the Oregon State game, which is what should happen because they have a talent gap between the first 4 teams that they're going to play, where in that game, all of a sudden it was like a sigh of relief, right? Where Oregon was running the ball effectively, Gabriel had time to throw, wasn't under pressure, getting stripped and all that stuff. If that happens in the first month of the season leading up to the Penn State game, it'll be because Poncho is doing an incredibly good job, because the center's the quarterback of the offensive line. He's got to get everybody into the right calls. He's got to organize. And of course he has to, obviously snap and block. So I think Poncho's the guy that, you should look at and say, hey, how many times does he make a key block that frees up a big run? How many times does Dante Moore have time to throw and is failing to see pressure up the middle because Poncho's just up there once again being a dynamo in pass protection? So, yeah, I think Poncho is the guy that everybody should really be aware of. It's hard to figure out sometimes from a fan standpoint, like what offensive linemen are playing really well, and that's where PFF I think can be useful. But just keep an eye on that through the first couple of weeks of the season, because the talent and experience on the offensive line is really good. They haven't played together. Getting them to gel certainly is on the quarterback, Dante Moore, because there's a lot of communication that goes into that. But he being Poncho, has to make sure they're all situated correctly. And frankly, he's got some big shoes to fill. Just when you think about the long line of centers that Oregon's had who have been great, I mean, you think about Hronis Grasu was, I think, an All-American. Jake Hansen was close to being an All-American, or was in that sort of range, like second or third team, I think. JPJ, of course, Remington Award winner. Go back to Max Unger. Like, the run of Oregon centers has been phenomenally good. And I think Poncho is currently a great one and can take that next step forward this year to be an even better one.